Well, good morning. It's Dr. Rodney here, and it is News in Review, July 5th edition. So, the Supreme Court ruled that federal agencies cannot interpret the law written if it was vague, restricting the agencies from creating their own interpretations of laws. This was basically an overturning of the Chevron decision over about 40 years ago and really affects EPA, Department of Labor, a lot of different federal agencies that are interpreting the law and coming up with their own regulations versus actually having specific directives through their own charters that they were actually created by Congress. So essentially, it's putting it back into Congress's hands, and it is taking away a lot of safeguards potentially, but also some overreach as well. So Supreme Court also ruled that cities and states can use anti-camping laws to deter homelessness. This was a landmark case utilizing the Eighth Amendment, and it was actually very, very interesting. And so they have ruled that they can use that it is not anti-constitutional for them. Also, this is the big case here that, or one of two big cases, I should say, the in a 6-3 ruling, so basically split along conservative and liberal justices. The Supreme Court ruled that the U.S. government cannot use the obstruction clause for January 6th defendants, which could throw a lot of convictions, plea agreements, and also a lot of people that have been spending time behind jail since January 6, 2020. And it could also affect Donald Trump's trials as well. The Texas Supreme Court upheld gender affirming care ban for children. So this is really fitting along party lines. You cannot do gender surgeries under age 18 in Texas. And then this is the really huge ruling, another huge ruling from the Supreme Court, puts the power of lawsuits back into the plaintiff's hands, ruling that bankruptcy statements need to be adequate and not benefit the company. This was in conjunction with the Purdue Farmer lawsuit, which really puts the Statler family back into really harm's way. And then the large Supreme Court case that everyone's been waiting on is the Trump immunity case, ruled on again a 6-3, again down conservative versus liberal, that they are extending presidential immunity to all formal acts within the presidency until they leave office, and all informal acts are subject to civil and criminal penalties. Now, they did not go far enough to decide what is a formal act and what's not an informal act, sending that back to the lower court. So how that's really going to affect the president and or the former president and all of his different trials is still yet to be seen. A reformist enters the runoff in Iranian presidential election with the lowest turnout in Iranian history, putting him against the Ayatollah pick that's a hardliner. So this could be very, very interesting that the people actually are looking for that. And then Hurricane Beryl becomes the first major hurricane in the Atlantic, setting all types of records, including earliest Cat 3 storm, Cat 4 storm, and Cat 5 storm. And it has already hit landfill and has finally hit landfall here in the U.S., hitting all parts of the Texas coast on the Gulf. So it will bring a lot of rain and wind. It has destroyed Jamaica, the Windward Islands, and the Leeward Islands, and then also parts of Cancun and other parts of Mexico. And then after a dismal debate performance, Joe Biden says he will not be pushed out amidst major Dems calling for him to resign. We are now up to 13 major Democrats calling for him to resign. He also did an interview with George Stephanopoulos on July 5th as well, and it did not go well. So he is getting more and more calls as Congress returns back to work today. So that is the news and review, and this is Dr. Rodney.